The studio lights blazed like a spotlight on a battlefield. Christian Bale sat rigidly, the famous intensity that once commanded the screen now focused into something darker tension. The hosts of The View leaned forward, their voices sharp, slicing through the heavy air. "So, Christian," one began, voice steady but loaded, "there have been whispers, rumors, really on-set misconduct, emotional abuse, co-stars feeling intimidated. What do you say to that?" Bale's jaw clenched, his eyes flickered, narrowing beneath the glare. Silence stretched, thick as smoke. He paused, he stared, he responded, his voice low, cracked with restraint. "I've always demanded the highest from myself and those around me. If that's seen as dark, maybe that's because it is." Cut to tabloid headlines flashing across the screen. Christian Bale in crisis, co-star claims, "I was terrified." The montage spun through his greatest films, the tortured Bruce Wayne, the relentless American hustle, the physically and emotionally ravaged machinist, all icons now shadowed by suspicion. The hosts pressed, voices rising with veiled accusations, while Bale sat, a man caught between a collapsing empire and a fierce need to defend his truth. The tension was palpable, the audience holding its breath, waiting for the unraveling or the fight. Leaning forward, voice barely a whisper, Bale muttered, "You want the truth. You're going to regret this." The screen cut sharply, leaving nothing but the crackle of electricity, the question hanging, was this a meltdown, or a revelation? The days before this explosive interview were riddled with whispered stories and quiet accusations that had long circulated beneath the surface of Christian Bale as a public persona. Reports from various film sets painted a picture of a man whose passions sometimes morphed into volatility. Crew members spoke anonymously. Two tabloids, recounting moments where Bale's intensity spiraled, shouting matches, slammed doors, broken props. On the set of The Machinist, the film that demanded an almost inhuman dedication to his craft, tales emerged of Bale's relentless perfectionism tipping into fury. One former assistant, whose identity remained protected, described a scene from early morning shoots. He screamed. Not just frustration, pure rage. It was terrifying. You never knew what would set him off. One minute he was the consummate professional, the next he was yelling until someone broke down. These accounts, while unconfirmed legally, had taken root in the public mind, yet Bale's representatives have always walked a fine line, describing his behavior as the price of artistic excellence. Christian's commitment to his roles is unmatched, they said. Sometimes that means pushing himself and others harder than usual. No formal complaints or lawsuits had surfaced, only rumors and uneasy testimonies in glossy magazines. Now, on live television, the ideological battleground was clear. Was Bale the misunderstood perfectionist, an artist whose passion was mistaken for aggression, or was this a pattern of emotional abuse thinly veiled as dedication? The host's question hung like a verdict, sharp and unavoidable. How do you respond to these allegations of intimidation on set? Bale's voice, steady but haunted, replied, "I expect excellence, yes, but I never intend to hurt anyone. If my passion caused pain, I regret that deeply." The crowd leaned in, the line between genius and cruelty blurred, and the world watched to see where Bale's truth would land. The tension in the studio thickened as the host shifted gears, brandishing quotes from an ex-crew member who had appeared on a recent podcast. The voice from the past painted a picture far bleaker than the polished image fans adored. Verbal abuse, the Accusations said, yelling until tears fell. On screen, clips flickered of cast interviews from The Big Short, where co-stars spoke candidly about the pressures of working alongside Bale. "You had to walk on eggshells," one said, voice tinged with exhaustion. The hosts leaned in, their questions pointed and relentless. "Christian, did you intimidate your colleagues to get the performances you wanted?" Bale's breath caught, his hands clenched tightly on the armrest. His voice was quieter now, tinged with vulnerability. "My passion has sometimes overflowed, but I never set out to intimidate or demean anyone. It was never my intention." The studio fell silent, save for the faint hum of the cameras. Split screens captured the disbelief etched on the hosts' faces and the stubborn defiance in Bale's eyes. Emails leaked to the press were brought into play, veiled hints at settlements, non-disclosure agreements that never officially surfaced but fueled speculation. The battle wasn't just on the stage, it was in the shadows, whispered in hushed tones and legal walls. The host's tone softened for a moment, as if sensing the breaking point. "You say passion, but to those who suffered, it felt like fear." Bale's gaze dropped briefly before meeting the camera again. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken truths. No one blinked. The moment felt suspended, poised between confession and denial. Between the facade and the fracture. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Bale's legal counsel.com and commanding entered the fray like a seasoned barrister defending a fragile case. The lawyer's voice cut through the mounting chaos with practiced precision. Let me be clear, no formal defamation suit has been filed because these claims are baseless. Christian Bale has always maintained professionalism. Any disputes were resolved privately, the hosts pressed, leaning forward with skeptical eyes. If nothing happened, why was there never a lawsuit? Why settle behind closed doors instead of facing the truth openly? The lawyer's tone was steady but unyielding. Sometimes private resolutions are the most responsible course. Not every disagreement becomes a legal battle. It's about protecting all parties involved. Behind Bale's composed facade, the weight of public scrutiny bore down. The narrator sensed the invisible strain, lawyer and client united, yet vulnerable, navigating the treacherous waters of reputation and rumor. The stakes were clear, a shield of legal jargon versus the piercing arrows of public opinion. The hosts volleyed sharp questions, challenging the idea that silence equaled innocence. Does private settlement imply guilt? Or is it just a way to avoid scandal? Bale's counsel replied, it's a measure of discretion and respect, no admission of wrongdoing. The tension mounted, a delicate balance between legal protection and emotional exposure. Bale sat, hands folded, jaw tight. The battle not just over truth but control over narrative, over legacy. As the lawyer concluded, the silent question lingered. Could the law safeguard Bale's name when public judgment was swift and unforgiving? Beneath the glare of the studio lights, the conversation took a deeply personal turn. The camera zoomed in on Bale's phaser man, usually guarded, now vulnerable. The narrative shifted from allegations to the man behind the myth, a fiercely private figure grappling with the weight of fame and expectation. He had spoken before about his struggles with perfectionism, the mental toll of inhabiting demanding roles. In interviews with The Guardian and Vanity Fair, Bale had admitted to wrestling with anxiety and relentless self-criticism. His philanthropic work quietly championed mental health causes, a stark contrast to the public's recent harsh judgment. Christian, the host asks softly, how has this all affected your family? Your children? Bale's eyes flickered with emotion. They've stood by me, but it's been painful. I'm trying to be a better father, a better man for them and for myself. The room seemed to exhale. The harsh light softened by his admission. The tension didn't dissipate but evolved into something more complex, empathy mingling with doubt. The audience felt the man's struggle, a clash between public persona and private reality. Yet questions remained. Was this the confession of a flawed hero or a calculated display to regain favor? The ideological battle deepened. The tortured artist or the tyrant director? Each viewer weighed their own verdict as the chapter closed on this intimate, fragile moment. The ideological divide was laid bare for all to see. Fans rallied to Bale's defense, painting him as a martyr of artistic integrity. Online forums brimmed with posts defending his intensity as necessary for greatness, a sacrifice for cinema's highest craft. Yet critics remained unyielding, branding him as an entitled star whose temperament crossed into emotional abuse. The hosts played a montage of tweets, some praising his dedication, others condemning his alleged behavior. You're seen by many as a perfectionist, a man who pushes boundaries, one host said, but others see a pattern of fear and control. How do you reconcile those two views? Bale's answer was measured, eyes steady. Intensity has always been part of my process, but I've also learned the importance of empathy and respect. It's a balance I'm still working on. The conversation revealed a fracture not just within Bale but within the audience itself, a microcosm of a wider cultural debate on power, accountability, and artistry. The same drive that earned him Oscars could also be his undoing. The studio pulsed with this unresolved tension, leaving viewers torn between admiration and skepticism, setting the stage for an inevitable, explosive confrontation. The moment came like a storm breaking through a fragile calm, as the hosts' questions sharpened, digging into rumors of an emotional breakdown on the set of Thor: Love and Thunder. Something inside Bale snapped. His hand slammed the table, voice thunderous and raw. Enough, he roared, eyes blazing. I've paid for my mistakes privately. I have never hurt anyone intentionally. This facade you're spinning is unbearable. The studio gasped. The polished atmosphere shattered into shards of shock. Cameras caught every tremble of his jaw, every bead of sweat tracing down his temple. His chest heaved with a mixture of fury and exhaustion. The hosts recoiled, momentarily silent, as the man they sought to unravel revealed a fractured soul. One host whispered, "Why explode now? Live, Christian." Bale's breath came heavy, words thick with emotion. "Because the truth has been weaponized against me. I'm tired of hiding behind smiles while lies spread like wildfire." The room seemed to hold its breath, suspended between chaos and confession. The tension that had simmered for weeks boiled over into raw humanity, a moment of reckoning, not just for Bale, but for everyone watching. Was this a meltdown, a breakdown, or a breakthrough? The answer hung in the air, electric and uncertain. Fallout was immediate and intense. Social media exploded with the hashtag #BaleMeltdown, splintering public opinion into two fierce camps. Supporters rallied, emphasizing his humanity and the unbearable pressure of celebrity scrutiny. Critics doubled down, framing the outburst as proof of a dangerous volatility. Major entertainment outlets scrambled to dissect the event. Variety questioned whether Bale was a star under siege or victim of cancel culture, while Deadline reported delays in his promotional schedule for Thor: Love and Thunder. Marvel Studios, in a rare public statement, distanced itself professionally, emphasizing their commitment to a respectful set environment without directly naming Bale. Hosts on various talk shows read aloud, tweets some empathetic, others scathing. "He's human," one said, "but he can't control himself," another countered. The public's emotional landscape was fractured, torn between empathy and fear. Bale's career, once untouchable, now felt precarious, suspended in the court of public opinion. The tension remained unresolved, a high-wire act between redemption and ruin. The world was watching, waiting for the next move in a drama that had become larger than any one man. In the aftermath of the storm, Bale sought to mend the fissures exposed by the live confrontation. Interviews with respected outlets like BBC and GQ revealed a man willing to confront his flaws. His voice was quieter now, marked by reflection and remorse. "I am responsible for my behavior," he confessed. "I'm committed to doing better for my colleagues, my family, and myself." He outlined new steps: mental health support initiatives for crew members, transparent communication on set, and personal therapy. Public statements from producers and cast began to surface, praising his professionalism in recent projects, signaling a possible turning tide. A follow-up segment on The View featured a host acknowledging Bale's efforts, though cautiously. "We hear your apology, but words must be matched by actions." The emotional pace slowed, allowing space for nuance and hope. The tension shifted from confrontation to potential reconciliation, a complex dance between accountability and redemption. The public remained divided, but a window had opened, a chance for Bale to reclaim not just his reputation, but his humanity. The final chapter unfolded as a quiet reckoning. Slowly, voices from within the film community began to emerge, offering a more balanced view. Cast members from recent projects spoke up, publicly defending Bale's character, emphasizing his growth and commitment. Industry insiders noted his dedication to fostering a healthier work environment, highlighting his active participation in mental health campaigns. The View's hosts issued a measured follow-up, crediting Bale's willingness to face his shortcomings. In a restorative interview segment, Bale appeared with a calm dignity, headlining a mental health initiative co-sponsored by Hollywood guilds. The exchange was no longer an interrogation but a dialogue about truth, healing, and accountability. Closing words resonated deeply. "Truth is what heals." The narrative closed on a poetic note, the same fire that had once been feared as destructive now illuminating a path to understanding and redemption. Headlines shifted, signaling a change in public sentiment. Christian Bale clears the air. Mental health in entertainment spotlighted. The story left viewers with a lingering question. In a world hungry for heroes, can we accept their flaws and the truth they carry? The balance between justice and compassion remained fragile but hopeful. The final frame a testament to the complexity of truth and the power of human resilience. Though the public reckoning seemed to draw to a close, subtle ripples continued beneath the surface. Industry insiders whispered about the lasting impact of Bale's ordeal, how it sparked renewed conversations on set dynamics and the often unseen toll of method acting. Hollywood's glare intensified on mental health policies, with guilt proposing stronger protections and support systems for cast and crew alike. Christian himself retreated briefly from the spotlight, focusing on his family and personal growth. Yet, even in absence, his story echoed a cautionary tale and a beacon. The lessons learned extended beyond his career. touching on the delicate balance between artistic passion and human dignity. Thus the world watched. Bale's journey reminded everyone that behind the glitz and glamour, real lives wrestle with real struggles. The narrative, once a spectacle of accusation and outburst, matured into a nuanced dialogue about accountability, forgiveness, and the cost of greatness. The final lingering question remained, can the industry evolve from this crucible, or will history repeat itself? For Christian Bale, the answer was still being written. In the months following the controversy, Christian Bale slowly began to rebuild his public image with deliberate care. He accepted roles that reflected not only his artistic range but also his renewed commitment to collaboration and respect on set. Interviews showcased a man transformed, open about past mistakes and vocal about the importance of empathy in the creative process. Public discourse shifted from scandal to redemption. Documentaries and think pieces examined the pressures placed on actors like Bale, contextualizing his outburst within a broader conversation about mental health in Hollywood. His advocacy helped destigmatize these issues, inspiring industry-wide initiatives that prioritized well-being alongside artistry. The tension that once crackled on live television mellowed into a quiet, earned respect. Audiences saw not just a star, but a human being grappling with the complexities of fame, power, and personal growth. Christian Bale's story had evolved from a viral controversy into a lasting testament, a dramatic journey reminding the world that even in darkness, there is the possibility of light and redemption.